Hello hunters! Monster Hunter Now has been available for about 2 weeks now, and I have been having a pretty good time playing it. I think the gameplay is surprisingly fun, given the constraints of a mobile game. I also don't think the paid mechanisms in the game are too predatory or pay to win, but it is a mobile game, and making a lot of money for less effort is kind of the point. So I wanted to make a video and highlight the biggest problems with the game in my opinion. In recent interviews, there seemed to be some reception to feedback, so I hope that we can see improvements in the most painful parts of the game. The first thing is multiplayer. The game is not that popular around me, and it's certainly no Pokemon Go launch. I have by chance played multiplayer all but one time in my hours of playing this game. A huge appeal to many players with Monster Hunter is multiplayer, and I was disappointed to hear from recent feedback that there are no plans for online multiplayer. I think this is absolutely unacceptable. I've recognized a problem that the philosophy of the game is to have people go explore the real world, and a party system can make it only require one person to go around and find monsters. However, surely there must be some middle ground to allow players to play with friends who are far away. It could be like an event or something you can't do that frequently. The gameplay in this game is just really fun, and it feels like it would be fantastic to play multiplayer if it was only more accessible. On the topic of events, while I am glad that there was an event this early, I think the intent of the event was missed so badly. The Diablo's event has widely been received as too difficult given the game was only available for a week. In a recent interview, it was revealed that the intent was for players to defeat the Diablos together, because surely normally the Diablos was too hard. But the HP scales with additional players, so it's still incredibly hard even if you did try it with other people. I felt I played the game quite a bit in the first week, and I tried going out on Sunday and was just barely able to defeat a handful of Diablos. The event also introduced Black Diablos, which I never saw and have still never seen. I feel like with rare monsters, instead, there should be some kind of schedule that will make players come to an event to fight the rare monster together. That way, hunters can find others to play with and start to establish a community. This makes a point of interest very desirable and gives better reason to bring players together. Okay, moving on to something else. Healing. Okay, I think it's very clear healing sucks in this game, and I think this mechanism is way too aggressive to motivate players to buy potions if they run out of the daily amount. The feeling of starting your walk and instantly going down is incredibly disappointing and really ruins the experience. I'm excited to go out and play because the game is fun, but I feel like I don't need to be punished this hard to have to wait 18 minutes to hunt again. I think the recharge rate of HP, at least up until the 30% mark, should be increased significantly. I think a wait is still necessary to provide a sense of risk and urgency in the hunt. I like the consequence of failure, and I think it adds a certain level of thrill to combat. However, I think the current rate to recover the amount of HP to hunt again is way too long. I'd aggressively suggest reducing it to a minute or two, but it shouldn't be longer than 5 minutes at most. Recharging the rest of the HP above 30% at the previous rate is totally fine. If the point of the game is to go out and explore the world, there should not be an 18-minute wait that can prevent you from hunting. Lastly, the acquisition of materials to craft weapons and armor is incredibly problematic right now. I think the progression of the game is slow by design, which is fine. I'm happy with the game you can pick out a bit a day and feel like you will eventually get there. However, there are a lot of problems with how materials are acquired. The first is materials that are tied directly to mining nodes, bone piles, and vegetation patches. Access to these gathering points isn't equal to all players, and getting earth crystals, monster bone plus, and carpenter bugs can kind of feel impossible, especially while later in the game, a single craft can demand a ton of them. Even worse, the nodes don't guarantee them, so it makes gathering these materials really unreasonable if you don't have access to a lot of gathering points. I think the materials that spawn everywhere on the map should also be able to be these rare materials. I think it would be fine if the odds to obtain them are the same as the gathering points as well. At the moment, it's just not reasonable for some players to obtain these items. Next, monster materials. I think the structure of how monsters drop rare materials is kind of broken. Seeking specific rare materials is very frustrating, given that you cannot quite just keep trying to fight the same monster over and over again because it despawns after you defeat it. It is not like normal Monster Hunter where the odds is really low, but at least you can keep trying. You just have to hope that you find one on your excursion, and if you do and it doesn't drop, you just have to wait and you feel like you make no progress. I do think the drop rates need to improve, but I also think there should be a melder merchant in the game where you can turn in materials and then convert them into melding points, and then use those points to get to items that you want to get. It should still take a lot of points to buy the rare items, but at least the players feel like they are making progress towards their goals, rather than just hoping for both a spawn and a drop. I've been trying to get a Diablo Marrow for this entire week and have still not been able to get one despite defeating many 6-star Diablos. I know the video says 3, but there's just one more thing and it's probably the most important problem in the whole game. But let me know what your biggest issues are with the game. I think this feedback needs to be repeated and mentioned over and over again as much as possible, so hopefully they can do something about it. I really want to emphasize that this Monster Hunter mobile game is way more fun than it ever should have been. And I have this feedback because the game is really fun and I want it to be even better. Finally, the worst part of Monster Hunter Now is that there is not Switch Axe in the game!